Hey everyone, Brittany and Chris Carmichael here, bringing you the Elevated Life series where we teach you simple mindset shifts to create radical transformation in your life. And today is, in the Northern Hemisphere, the fall-autumn equinox, and we are so excited. It's my favorite season. My birthday's coming up, so we're just celebrating that there is change happening. So happy fall and happy autumn equinox blessings. This is a time of change and transformation and moving into a new phase of life. And you know, the fall is all about reaping the harvest and the rewards of all the seeds that we planted in the past. So today's topic is really going to help you make that transition and really understand what to do during change and when things happen. And so today's topic is 3 steps to overcoming major setbacks in your life.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I really like about fall a lot is that it's funny because like in spring we celebrate all these things blooming, but in fall everything's actually dying away. And so it's really fascinating how many of us love this season, and you know, sometimes we don't allow the same things in our lives, in other words, the dying away of things, to inspire us. We use them as like, oh my God, these are horrible things that are happening, but really like this is a great time, because if we didn't have fall and we didn't have the winter, we couldn't have the spring. And so it's always to remember that like whatever is happening in your life is always to bring you to something better. And we need that fall time. We need that dying off of the old things to bring in anything new. So this is a time to like celebrate and rejoice, even if you have major setbacks. And so we're going to talk about how to go through those and, you know, come out the other side like ready for spring.
Yeah, knowing that it is okay, and this too shall pass is my mom's great wisdom around this. So before we get started on the 3 simple steps to help you overcome these setbacks in your life, I just want to take a moment to say hello, happy, what is it? Happy equinox, happy autumn blessings. Super excited to dive into this topic because listen, life happens, and whether we look at it as a blessing in disguise or just total BS and we blame things, you know, we've all experienced some kind of setback or another, and these simple shifts are going to help you to see them not as setbacks but as ways to kind of reframe your mind and take a new path. So super excited. Just want to say hello to everyone who's here live. Hello Erica, Casey, it's so good to see you all. And if you know somebody that maybe is going through a hard time in their life or a setback or a struggle, because I know a lot of people that we've come across, our friends and our family, has been dealing with major, what we would call setbacks, including cancer and disease and car accidents and things like that. And so our heart feels just full of compassion, and our heart, you know, breaks also at the same time, knowing that these things are happening, but we know that they're happening for the best, and they're moving people into that next direction that they've been asking for. So this topic is really near and dear to us today. And if you know somebody that's struggling through a setback, I invite you to invite them to this live video, or share it, or whatever you feel called to do, because I know there's so many people that might be struggling or suffering, and we want to help them shift their mindset to see the blessings in disguise. And today's topic is going to help you do that.
Yeah, and so the first really big step when you have a really major setback is to accept it. You know, a lot of times we're like, oh, this is not happening to me, and we pretend, you know, we make this big pretend thing, and the longer that you pretend, the longer it's going to be before you start on the road to recovery. And it doesn't matter what it is, you know, whatever the setback can be. You know, we're talking about super major things. For me, this was a big deal years ago when I got in a really bad motorcycle accident, you know, and they thought they were going to have to amputate my leg, and all this stuff was happening. And then I couldn't, you know, I got out of actually the hospital that night. I left and went home and decided, you know, this is not for me. I'm going to heal on my own. But I woke up the next day after like the Demerol and all the painkillers kind of wore off, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. Like, what am I going to do? And, you know, it was, you know, months before I was able to walk again and stuff like that. So this is really what we're talking about. When life just kind of hits you in the head, in the back of the head with a shovel, and you're going, I don't know what to do. What is this? And
oh my gosh, I've totally hit a kid with a
shovel.
Oh my God, it just made me think of that.
So the first step really is acceptance. You have to accept that it's happened. And from that standpoint, when you begin to look at it and say, okay, this has happened to me, now you can begin to move forward. But until that point, nothing will happen.
So with these 3 simple steps that we're going to offer you today, we're also going to offer you three questions that you can ask yourself or the universe or whatever, for you to really make this transition and make this shift. Because it's not just enough to know that you have to accept it. It seems so easy, and it really is. But the question that you want to ask yourself when dealing with accepting what is, this is like the Zen philosophy. You'll end suffering when you start accepting what is, no matter what it is. You have to begin to ask yourself the question, what good can come from this? And the moment that you ask yourself that question, you shift out of the negative, blame, victim mentality, and you shift into the, okay, there's obviously something happening. What is the lesson to be learned? Or what good can come from this? There's every single thing in your life, every problem or setback that you've ever experienced, I guarantee if you take a moment to reflect back, you will recognize that there was a blessing somewhere disguised inside that setback. So if you can learn to accept what has happened, whatever setback, whatever disease, whatever relationship, whatever bad thing has happened in your life, if you can look at it and say, what good can come from this? That automatically shifts you into a higher vibration that puts you in alignment with, okay, this is a learning lesson. This is for my highest good, instead of wallowing in the energy of victimhood.
Yeah, it really moves you out of the blame. It definitely moves you out of the blame category. And, a lot of times when we have big things happen to us, the biggest thing that we always do is just we immediately want to attack or blame somebody. Just like, who can I lay all this on so I can have a target, so I can tell them, I'm mad at you. But the reality is, like, that won't help us shift. That won't help us move forward. And so this whole question is just about shifting our attitude and begin to focus on the things that we really need.
Well, that brings us into step number 2, which is making a new plan. Because once you accept where you're at, you can't keep going down the same road that you were going on prior to the incident, the setback, whatever you want to call it, the blessing in disguise. So begin to look around at your reality and go, okay, what good can come from this? After you ask that question, then you have to begin to formulate a new plan and a new direction. So once you ask yourself that, you begin to take a look around your life and what's happening, and maybe where that setback, what category that setback came in, whether it was job or relationship or personal development. Begin to ask yourself, what good can come from this, and what needs to begin to shift? What can I let go of in order to move forward? Make that new plan.
Yeah,
I just want to say hello to Anne. She says, "Happy Friday, Carmichael."
Yes, happy Friday.
So good to see you. She says this totally hits after a setback yesterday.
Yeah, and so the big question here for yourself is, what's next? And this is a really powerful thing, and I really like asking this question when I'm dealing with somebody who or have a client who is going through some major life shifts. And so this is getting out of that story again. This is getting out of that victim mentality. It's like, oh, hey, I just got laid off from my job. And, my boss is this person did this thing, and that person did that thing. And you stay in that.
Sounds like I would want to be laid off.
Yeah, you stay in that story, right? And rather than just, it's, okay, great. So now what are you going to do? What's the next thing? And it gets the person going from stuck in the past, blaming, to shifting to, okay, now what am I going to do? Okay, what good can come from this? And then what's next?
Yeah.
What am I going to actually do? Like, what are the steps to move me forward?
Yeah, by asking the question, what's next, you're shifting into a solution mentality instead of wallowing in the past. It's over, it happened, and you can't change it. But you can't change what happened. That's part of the acceptance. But what you can do is make a new plan and ask yourself, what's next? And the third and final step for overcoming these setbacks is to focus. You really have to focus on that new plan. Once you've accepted this is what happened, then once you ask what good can come from this, by asking the question, new inner wisdom begins to arise, and you begin to look at different categories in your life and say, okay, what's the next step? What's the game plan? And you have to focus on keeping your thoughts positive.
Yeah, the big deal here is not to ask yourself the question and immediately feel like you have to come up with the answer. The big deal is to ask the question and then be totally quiet and let the answer start to come up.
Yeah, when dealing with change, I see that so many people, they have something that's no longer working in their life. They consciously want to let go of it, and they choose to do so, and they have a future vision to move forward. They're like, okay, I want to let go of this job and I want to do this dream job that I've been dreaming of. But what I find is that that people get stuck in that shifting, that interim, and we lose patience and we lose trust and belief that it's going to happen. So what's most important in dealing with these changes and making these shifts, like Chris said, the answer doesn't always come up immediately. Sometimes you immediately know. There's a health problem that's been bothering you for a while, you've been ignoring it, and then something happens and you're like, okay, I have to face it, I have to accept it, I have to make a new plan because I can't keep ignoring it. And now this is where the third step comes in, focusing on the positive thoughts and knowing that, okay, I have to have patience during the transition, during the change, and keeping your thoughts positive. You begin to ask yourself the question, how can I elevate my thoughts? How can I keep my thoughts elevated? Knowing that I'm taken care of, I'm headed in a new direction, I trust that all is working out in divine timing and exactly for my highest good. And that's when you have to let go, relax, and trust.
Yeah, this is the major step is keeping those thoughts positive, because this is going to decide how long you're going to suffer. And the deal is, if you're into suffering, don't do any of these steps. Just keep going as long as possible. But if you want to say, hey, how can I get through this in the best way, the quickest way? How can I immediately move forward? It's this step. It's keeping your thoughts continuously positive, no matter what someone else ends up telling you, no matter what. It's a practice to constantly keep your thoughts positive, to always be that like inspiration for yourself, because in this setback where we're talking about is what's happening to us. It's not like what's happening to our friend. That's different. This is what's happening internally. And so if you let those thoughts spiral, if you're like, oh man, this always happens to me, I'm so unlucky, life's so unfair, and you get into that kind of terrible thinking, that you're going to extend the suffering out for a long time. It can be years and years.
Yeah, how many of you know what it feels like to go on that negative downward spiral? Just throw an emoji up, let me know, because I know that it seems easy to allow yourself to spiral down the drain, but all you have to do is consciously choose to reach for a more positive thought instead of blaming or coming from that victim mentality. Once you've accepted, once you've realized things need to change, when you focus your thoughts on the positive, it just one step forward creates so much momentum rather than allowing the drain to suck you in.
Yeah,
Anne says the rabbit hole.
It's true, and it's funny. It's funny how simple. This is simple stuff, and it's funny how these simple ideas, when you focus on them in times that are like really, really difficult, you end up coming out the other, and it's just so much easier. You start to relax into the parts of your life where you're like, man, this is really tough. Like, the life is throwing me these curveballs. I don't know what to do. But when you focus on this stuff, your mind automatically grabs onto the next positive thing. So despite the fact that you may be sitting in the middle of the tornado, it doesn't feel so bad. You feel like, hey, I'm really able to cope and to handle and to make these kind of shifts.
Yeah, Erica says action is the cure for sure. It is so true. And here's the secret that paralyzes everyone from taking action. There's no wrong step. There's no wrong direction. There's no perfect direction. There's no mistake. Every part of it is learning. Maybe you step off the path and you go, oh, that wasn't the step I want to take. Readjust. That's accepting I made the step, but it was a step, and that is something to be celebrated. And then once you accept, you can go, okay, what can I learn from this? What good can come from this? Okay, get back on the path. Take another step to the left. And then do these 3 steps over and over again. Look around. What's going on? Tune into your life. What do I need to focus on? Where are my thoughts dragging me down or pulling me down this negative spiral?
Yeah, you're definitely the creator of your reality when this happens. And the deal is we're all going to go through these setbacks. They're going to happen no matter what. Like, no matter how perfect or secure or safe you can make your life, or how much money you can make, or any of that stuff. I didn't plan for my mom to have a stroke. That was like way out of left field. And I remember like laying down in the kitchen floor in the fetal position crying, going, why her? Why is this happening? And that was before acceptance set in. And the moment I accepted, okay, this has happened, I obviously can't turn it back. Where can we go from here? These were life lessons, and the wisdom that we're sharing with you is from personal experience, where we've watched our family members suffer tremendously from huge setbacks. I mean, it paralyzed my mother. And so
watching that happen to her made me begin to question my life and understand where I'm not accepting things or where I'm not shifting when I know I want to be. So, whether you've had, I'm sure you have, we all have, whether you've had it or you've experienced someone that you love having these major setbacks, like watching Chris go through that motorcycle accident and the long road of healing and recovery. The blessing in disguise here was that he quit his job that was consuming all of his time and energy that he wasn't passionate about. He stayed home with me. I showed up every single day to take care of him, to feed him, to bathe him, to do everything for him. And in that moment, he realized that I was the one and that he was going to marry me. And prior to that accident, he was like, I'm never getting married. I'm not into that. I just want to work all the time. It's about chasing money. And you know what? We've all been there. We've all felt that. And until that life-changing setback, quote unquote, happened, he was able to realize that you love me.
I think that's one of the most important lessons, is that, we never change when we want to. We only change when we have to. And I was in a spot then where I knew that I needed something to change, and what needed to change was me and my attitude towards things. And so it was that shift. It was like having the downtime long enough where I couldn't move out of bed and I couldn't go use the bathroom on my own, to realize man, my whole life needs kind of an overhaul. And if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? I'm just going to lay in this bed for the rest of my life or be mopey or whatever. And it's you have to have these major setbacks. All the major setbacks in my life have been the greatest opportunities for change. It's been exactly that.
So just say thank you when it happens.
Yeah, and without them, nothing, I would never change. I would never do anything better, because you need that stuff. You need those things to, again,
we wouldn't be married.
Hit you in the head with the shovel and be like, hey dude, boom. You need to wake up and start doing stuff different.
Some people need to wake up.
Yeah.
I just want to go back and read Jessica's comment here. She says, yes, all of a sudden it doesn't feel that bad anymore, because you'll get through it and be better because of it.
Exactly.
And Cynthia says everything is a learning process. And I think Leslie said earlier that every day there's something good in every day, that you just have to look harder. It's all about finding the silver lining. Started moving throughout my life going, what good can come from this? What good can come from this? What good can come from this? And it may seem simple and it may seem annoying, but it automatically shifts from victim to in control and accepting. Anne says, my life-changing setback was the house fire that happened 4 years ago, and we were homeless for 8 months. And I know your story very well, because we worked together in coaching for a while, and we can call it a setback, but now that we are conscious and aware that these things really aren't setting us back, they're pushing us forward. So if you can reframe, thinking in the past, this thing that happened to me or this bad thing, if we can just start to call them and use them in our story as blessings and not setbacks, I think it'll begin to shift the energy moving forward.
Yeah, and talking about my bike accident again, I would do that 100 times over, and it was painful and it was awful and all that kind of stuff, and it was amazing at the same time, because it forced me to look at things, and that's what you're always looking for. These kind of situations force you to look at it. So when you're in the middle of that situation, you're like, oh, I don't like this. Look for the positive.
Yeah, take time to pause.
And you may not see it. You may not see it, though.
Pause to look for the positive, and know that you don't have to squirm and be like, oh my God, what's happening? It's in the middle. It's change. I hate change. Oh my God. Change is constantly happening. Just as today is the change of season, our life is in constant change. And if it weren't, we would be bored. Because let me ask you this. Do you want to be the same person you were 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? I know I don't. And if change didn't happen, then I wouldn't be here today. So stop resisting change and accept and trust that everything is happening for your highest good, and you'll begin to see the silver lining more quickly.
Bang.
Booyah.
Happy Friday.
Happy equinox blessings. Change is the only constant, Miriam says.
So
Leslie
true.
says, everything happens for a reason. I have always believed that. Leslie, it's the best mentality to have if you don't enjoy suffering, because if you can trust that everything is happening for a reason, then it makes it so much easier to accept, which is step number 1. Number 2 is to, say what's next, make a new plan. And number 3 is focus your thoughts on the positive. I know that we've all had major setbacks, but they truly are blessings in disguise. So the more you can shift your energy to thankfulness and gratitude, even in the moment of the shitstorm, it becomes so much easier to move forward instead of wallowing in what's happening. Thank you for joining us here on The Elevated Life every Friday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, where we teach you simple mindset shifts to create radical transformation in your life. We love you, we support you, and we hope you have the best, most beautiful weekend during this time of change. Really begin to think about what you want to let go of and what you want to harvest. What do you want to create for yourself over this next season, this next cycle? Jessica says, happy equinox. Thanks, guys. Thank you for always, thank you. Like always amazing. So exciting. We just love hearing from you. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you so much for your support. And we will see you next Friday.
Bye, guys.